Simon Cowell is recognized across the globe as one of television's most formidable talent judges. Calm, blunt, and rarely emotional, he built a reputation over decades for evaluating performances with surgical precision and without a trace of sentiment. His sharp critiques and unwavering standards became his trademark, making him both feared and respected in equal measure. That is precisely why the moment he appeared visibly moved, even tearful, while speaking about Susan Boyle shocked millions of viewers around the world. What could bring the famously unflappable judge to such a raw and vulnerable state? The answer lies in one of the most extraordinary human stories the entertainment world has ever witnessed. Susan's rise from an unknown singer in a quiet Scottish town to a global sensation had already inspired audiences everywhere. But behind that remarkable journey lies a far deeper story, one woven with threads of resilience, compassion, hardship, and an unexpected bond that revealed a profoundly human side of success. To truly understand why Simon broke down, one must first understand who Susan Boyle really is and where she came from. Susan Boyle was born in Blackburn, West Lothian, Scotland, into a working-class family with several siblings. Her early life was shaped by humble surroundings and numerous hardships that many could relate to, yet few would later witness alongside such extraordinary fame. From a young age, Susan developed a deep passion for music, but her opportunities were severely limited by both economic and social factors. She was diagnosed with learning difficulties as a child, a fact that fostered misunderstandings and sometimes unfair judgments from those around her. Rather than being crushed by these early challenges, she quietly channeled them into a determined resolve to prove her worth through her talent and her kindness. Growing up shy and reserved in a small town, Susan lived much of her youth almost anonymously. Her dream of singing was intensely personal and private, far removed from the spotlight she would eventually inhabit. She worked as a charity volunteer, sang in her local church, and took part in modest community performances, steadily honing her voice away from public view. She also devoted significant years of her life to caring for her aging parents as their health declined, a responsibility she carried with quiet grace and dignity. These obligations shaped her character in ways no talent show ever could. They gave her a strength born not from ambition, but from love and duty. What made Susan's pre-fame existence even more remarkable was the stigma she had to silently endure. People drew incorrect conclusions about her abilities because of her learning difficulties, and social judgment followed her throughout her early years. She was frequently underestimated and overlooked, yet beneath that unassuming exterior lived a woman of extraordinary vocal ability and deep emotional depth, qualities the world would eventually discover in the most stunning fashion imaginable. When Susan Boyle walked onto the stage of Britain's Got Talent in 2009, she was met with skepticism. Wearing a simple dress and glasses, she hardly fit the conventional mold of a rising star. The audience whispered and murmured. The judges, including Simon Cowell, exchanged knowing glances that betrayed their low expectations. Everything about the atmosphere suggested this would be a forgettable moment. Then she began to sing. From the very first notes of I Dreamed a Dream from Les Miserables, the room transformed entirely. Her voice, powerful, emotive, and breathtakingly pure, silenced every doubt in an instant. The audience rose to their feet. Judges who had been smirking sat open-mouthed. Simon Cowell, the man who had heard thousands of auditions across decades in the music industry, was visibly stunned. He later admitted he was completely unprepared for the flood of emotion her voice unleashed in him. The global response was unlike anything reality television had ever produced. The video of her audition spread across the internet with extraordinary speed, accumulating millions of views and sparking conversations about beauty standards, hidden talent, and the dangerous habit of judging people by appearances alone. Susan became an overnight symbol of hope, proof that genuine talent and authenticity could shatter stereotypes and defy every expectation. Yet through it all, she remained grounded and gracious, her humility only deepening the affection the public felt for her. For Simon, That night represented a turning point in his career as a talent judge. It reminded him and the world that the entertainment industry is as much about heart and human story as it is about technical skill and polished presentation. Susan's audition forced a fundamental reevaluation of what it truly means to be a star and challenged the often superficial standards by which fame is awarded and measured. In the years that followed, Simon Cowell's connection with Susan Boyle evolved from a judge-contestant relationship into something far more meaningful and enduring. What began as genuine surprise on Simon's part gradually deepened into profound respect and admiration. Unlike many relationships that come and go in the revolving door of reality television, theirs developed into a unique friendship grounded in mutual understanding and sincere care. Simon witnessed firsthand how Susan's humility and resilience contrasted sharply with the pressures and glitz of show business. Her presence reminded him of the power of vulnerability, a refreshing counterpoint to the fast-paced and often superficial world of celebrity culture. Over time, he acknowledged openly that Susan represented something rare, an authenticity that the entertainment industry rarely nurtures and almost never celebrates. He developed a protective instinct toward her, reflecting a warmth that rarely surfaced in his public persona. Susan, for her part, deeply valued Simon's honesty and the way he championed her talent during some of her most challenging moments. She acknowledged in interviews that his initial praise had been a turning point that validated years of quiet dedication. His belief in her went beyond professional endorsement. It was a genuine gesture of human connection that helped her navigate the steep and often overwhelming learning curve of international celebrity. Susan's sudden rise to global stardom brought with it challenges that extended far beyond the spotlight. Thrust into intense media scrutiny, she faced relentless public attention while carrying the internal struggles she had quietly managed for years. The pressures of fame magnified those struggles significantly. Media coverage was not always compassionate. Some headlines focused on her appearance or quirks rather than her extraordinary talent, creating additional emotional strain that was difficult to bear. Simon watched these developments closely and with growing concern. His role shifted naturally from judge to protector, and he expressed deep unease about the impact that such intense attention could have on someone as private and reserved as Susan. His empathy deepened as he witnessed the very real human cost that accompanied her transformation into a global celebrity. Behind the scenes, Susan grappled with balancing her personal well-being against the relentless demands of public life. Interviews, international tours, fan expectations, and constant media scrutiny contrasted sharply with the quiet and simple life she had known before. She spoke candidly about anxiety and the way the spotlight could be simultaneously exhilarating and profoundly isolating. Her honesty was groundbreaking. It helped destigmatize conversations about mental health, particularly as they related to celebrities, and invited audiences everywhere to look beyond the glamour to see the real struggles experienced by those living in the public eye. Adding another layer of complexity to Susan's journey was the diagnosis she received later in life: Asperger's syndrome, a form of autism spectrum disorder that affects social interaction and communication. For Susan, the diagnosis brought a sense of relief. It helped her understand the social difficulties she had faced throughout her life. But it also added a new dimension of challenge to navigating the demands of public life. Sensory sensitivities, a strong need for routine, and difficulties with social cues made the chaotic world of entertainment particularly taxing. Yet, Susan demonstrated remarkable determination, continuing to share her music with the world while being honest about her condition. Her openness sparked important conversations about neurodiversity and helped reduce the stigma attached to conditions that are still widely misunderstood. She showed audiences that success and vulnerability are not mutually exclusive, that they can and often do coexist. She also faced personal losses during this period, including the deaths of her parents, which were deeply felt. Balancing public commitments with private grief required a resilience that went largely unseen by the audiences who cheered for her. Through it all, she drew on her inner strength and the support of those closest to her, managing her professional obligations while protecting what remained of her private world. Over the years, Simon Cowell spoke openly and repeatedly about why Susan's story affected him so profoundly. His reflections went far beyond praise for her voice. He described her as one of the most remarkable people he had ever encountered in his career, a statement that carries extraordinary weight coming from a man known for his exacting standards and blunt assessments. He admitted that Susan's audition had fundamentally changed how he approached his role as a talent judge. Her performance reminded him that every person who steps in front of a microphone carries a personal story behind them, and that those stories deserve to be heard before judgment is passed. He spoke critically of the media's initial treatment of Susan, condemning the headlines that mocked her appearance before she had even sung a note. That protective stance revealed a side of him that television rarely captured, a man who cared genuinely about the welfare of the people brave enough to stand on that stage. When Simon finally broke down in tears during a reflective interview about Susan, the emotion was years in the making. His tears were not simply about her talent or her remarkable success. They were about witnessing a full human journey, the struggles before the stage, the hardships during the spotlight, and the quiet courage it took to keep going through all of it. He was moved by the realization that her story involved much more than singing. It involved overcoming deep and persistent human obstacles, and doing so with a grace and dignity that humbled him. Susan Boyle's story left a lasting imprint on the entertainment world and on the hearts of audiences everywhere. She became more than a singer with an extraordinary voice. She became a symbol of hope for everyone who has ever felt overlooked, underestimated, or dismissed before being given a fair chance. Her journey challenged entrenched stereotypes about age, appearance, and what success is supposed to look like, and reminded the world that true talent often emerges from the most unexpected places. Simon's emotional response to her story made the world see him differently too. It demonstrated that even in an industry built on performance and polish, authentic human feeling can break through. Together, their story became a powerful argument for compassion, for looking deeper than surface impressions, for withholding judgment until a person has had the chance to reveal who they truly are. Susan Boyle's courage in sharing her struggles and Simon Cowell's willingness to be moved and changed by them offer something rare in the world of entertainment. A reminder that the most unforgettable moments are not always the most polished ones. Sometimes the most powerful thing a person can do is simply stand up, open their mouth, and sing, trusting that the world, when it finally listens, will hear something worth celebrating.